How does she compare to Charvanik in data as far as penetration? Yeah, Hugh. People talk about Hugh pretty fondly. Excuse me. Ooh, it's that salad dressing repeating on me. So, as being one of the earliest group officers, she has a good ability here. Every time that hits, she increases the armor piercing by 40%. Just a standard boost to armor piercing. Now, typically, this is only to the base value. So, if you go look at, what's the base armor piercing on a particular ship, on an interceptor, it's going to be the highest. That's their key stat. So, let's just go pull up a ship. Let's go look at, here, we've got a, well, it's a bad example. We'll look at a Saladin. We'll look at better ships too. But if we look at a Saladin, and we look at tier 9, what's its armor piercing? 15,744. So she's going to boost that by 6,200. That's pretty good. And how often does she trigger? It's every time you get hit or every time you shoot and hit something. Let's look at her again. Every time the ship hits the opponent, she increases the armor piercing of the ship by 40%. So if you're firing 2 or 3 times per round, depending on your weapon, she's paying out. She's doing a decent improvement on it. But now if you factor in, other stats and other upgrades and things, how much is she making a change to it? So we go look at the same Saladin. Mine's only tier 8, but it'll serve for the example. My armor piercing, instead of being 15k, the base value, when you factor in all my other research and officers and stuff like that, it's up to 81,000. So is her adding an extra 5 or 6,000 to this helping a lot? It's helping some. And the fact that it's going to continue to stack over multiple rounds, the longer the fight goes, the more she's going to add up and add to it. So does it work? How can you tell? The only way you're going to tell is by the mitigation. So if you attack something without her and see that they're mitigating 60% of your damage, and then you put her on the ship and then you attack, round 1, you're going to notice that they're mitigating 59.8% of your damage. And then by like round 3 or round 4, maybe it's down to 57 or 56% of the damage. That's the only way you're going to be able to tell how much of an impact she's making. As the fight goes longer, their mitigation should get lower. And we can test that real quick. We can do some examples. We'll just throw, because she's probably right here. Yeah, she's right there below deck. We'll just swap these guys. We'll leave her off for a round. We'll go kill something. Again, something will probably die in 1 or 2 hits, but... Oh, scout. Sorry. Hang on. Squirrel. Alright, so where am I? Oh, I'm in territory, aren't I? Damn. This is just going to take a little longer to do it this way. That's fine. We've got a few minutes. So we'll go here, we'll hit a battleship or 2. We'll look at what our mitigation values are. We'll go back, we'll swap her in. We'll hit 1 or 2 more things. And we'll just see how much of a difference she's making. And again, because it is one of those cumulative effects, it's going to be tied to how long. The longer the fight goes, the more value you're getting out of her. Same thing with a lot of other penetration officers. So she might speed up, and that's the thing too, is that she might speed up the fight more. A fight that used to go 12 rounds, when you add her, it might only go 10 rounds, and that in itself is a bit of a savings. Try, for example, at tier 5, 40k stat gives 680,000 piercing. How many shots does it take Az to do the same thing? And that's the thing, too. Now, Az, you can argue, Az is more easily accessible to earlier in players in the game. And because she's in the faction recruit packs, you can tier her up faster. Getting a tier 5, your example is correct, and your math is absolutely right. It's the difference between a rare officer and an epic officer. But how much longer does it take you to get to a tier 5 Charvanek? It's 1,500 shards total versus like 350 rare shards and ones that are in the faction recruit packs. So you can get, Az might be replaced by Charvanek at some point in time, but it might take a good portion of players might need 1 or 2 years to get Charvanek to that tier 4, tier 5 point where she's then making Az less valuable. The other value, of course, Az does have is if you are running, Gorkon Kurla, she also slots in to give extra synergy to Gorkon, probably, as captain, to give you that extra crit chance. Because I see a lot of people using this crew for solo armadas, right? They're using Gorkon Kurla as one of their solo armada crews, whether it's for the Borg solos or for something else. Or for just the Dominion ones. But we'll hit this 36. We'll hit this 35 afterwards. All right, let's do this real quick, since we're lagging a little bit. Can you go to Spox? Spox Club's been down for weeks. Spox Club, unless it's back up and I haven't noticed, but Spox Club has been broken. Yeah, the website isn't even active anymore. Yeah. The guy who ran it took some time off for personal reasons in like November. And it was working until early December or so, and now the whole website is just like a blank web page. Doesn't even load up to anything. It just gives you like a database error. Should you use her on the Mantis? No. Because you're not hitting... The only armor piercing comes into play when you're fighting ships that have high armor for the most part, and those would be battleships. And you're not really fighting battleships. You're not fighting battleships with the Mantis. You're not fighting battleships when you're doing your Stella grinding and things like that. She does also work on armadas, and those fights can go longer. Which is where some people see value from her, especially lower level players in their 20s and low 30s. Because that is a crew, the Klingon crew is one you can assemble earlier, so. But, alright. Try to finish up these dailies here. How we doing? Defeat Klingon, defeat Klingon. Alright, so let's move along here. Move along, move along, move along home. Alright, so let's look at... Whoops. Let's find the things we were actually killing. So we were killing these Varan Marauders. I killed the 36. Fight only went 1 round, because the thing just died too quick. Actually, the thing died in 1 shot. Okay. Well, we'll have to find something better to hit, I guess. This is a bad example. Doesn't work. Alright, let's go to Nequencia real quick. Oh, that's a long flight. Eclipse hostiles are going to be too easy, too. They're not going to last very long. Well, maybe. Let's see what we can find. Do these things even have high armor? 75,000 static. Yeah, but that's not their primary stat for mitigation. That's a bad example. That's a bad example. How big are these guys? They're only 800,000. They're going to die in one shot, too. Alright, so I guess we do have to go out here. Here we go. We'll go there. We'll hit the veterans. That'll be a good example. Yeah, exactly. That's why we're switching that up. Alright, good. There's a bunch of 39s here, so I can finish this daily up as well, which is awesome. And then we'll do some math, because math are fun. Oh man, I'm missing out. Is this an exchange one? Just tell me it's an eclipse and I won't feel bad. Okay, it's an eclipse. I was like, tell me I'm missing out on a rare armada right now while I'm doing all this crew testing and shuffling. But they're just doing eclipses. That's fine. We likes the math. Sometimes. Sometimes the math gets a little too complicated. Sometimes they just start making up letters and numbers, and you're like, all right, that's not real math. You're just making stuff up to make it fit your theory at this point. And as long as I'm just hanging out, not doing anything. You do that. Let's go mine some isogen. Because I was thinking to myself, why don't I just move my base to make this easier? But it's like, but I wanted to mine isogen, that's why I'm in territory. I have no idea what that. Who works with Pike? Is that like voice to text? Because that's funny if that's voice to text. Because I don't know what that says. I have a buddy who's terrible with that. He uses voice to text for everything. He likes to use it while he's driving, and he's always got his GPS on too. So halfway through the text message, you'll get make a right turn because it's his GPS talking and telling him where to turn. So he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna come over and we're gonna hang out in 500 feet, make a right turn, and then I'll bring some Cheetos and we'll have fun." And you're always just like, "Yep, all right, that's his text. Yep." And we always try and see who can get the most random, you know, thing to happen in his voice text of what's going on around him at the time, or guess what he's, what where he's going. We share them sometimes in groups amongst ourselves, and there's been a few winners over the years, and he has a good sense of humor about it because he knows that it comes off this way and it's funny, and we're not making fun of him. We're making fun of the situation and the circumstances, and he gets a good laugh out of it too when he actually reads them back because he doesn't always know that that's how it's sent until he reads your reply to it later. So do as Data and TOS Spock work with Pike? They are combat abilities, so theoretically, yes, you'd get a small boost to their abilities. I mean, that's why Picard Beverly Data is probably one of the preferred combinations for that. All right, so let's hit a couple of guys here, and hopefully these fights go more than one round. There's a 39, there's a 37. Give me a 38 while we're at it. It's really left turn 200 meters. No. No. What's a meter? Can you guys even make left turns if you're driving on the wrong side of the road? Like, ugh. There are probably people who actually think that that's a possibility. If it says opponent's ship, that means should mean whatever you're hitting. Now, the problem is too is that some of the earlier stuff and the earlier officers created, they've kind of tweaked some of the wording a little bit on newer officers to be more clear, but they haven't changed the original wording on some stuff. It's like if you play a card game or something like that, the first set that comes out, they change stuff later to make the wording, they find their rhythm and get their wording better as the game progresses. But like that first initial base release, some of the stuff is worded a little funny. But typically speaking, if it just says opponent's ship, it should mean player or hostile or armada. It's just whatever you're attacking, that's what you're going to do damage to. So, all right. So for our example here, we're hitting a couple of 39 battleships with the Saladin. We're doing it without Azetbur. I don't know if that's how you pronounce that name, but that's what we're going with. And we're going to see just exactly. So the fight went 3 rounds. In round 1, 479,826 was how much was mitigated. It mitigated 58.89% of my first shot, and that should be consistent as the fight goes on. 58.89. 58.89, so pretty consistent there as we see the other shots. Fight only went 3 rounds. I only got a couple of shots off, and then I took the thing down. That's against the 39. Why did I close the calculator? I'm going to be using it against the 37. That's a little weaker. It should be mitigating a little bit less. That one only mitigated 49% of the damage because it's a smaller ship. It's got smaller stats. Yeah, 49% on there. And the 38 should be somewhere in between them. We'll say it should split the difference and be somewhere around 53, 54%. 5426. I should write these numbers down, huh? Let's write these numbers down. So it was 5889, 4904, and that one is 5426. So this is the 39, 37, and the 38. Okay. Again, fight only went 2 rounds because this thing's a little weaker. So when I get back to base, I will at least put O'Brien on to speed things up a little bit. And boost the warp speed so the return trip does not take nearly as long. Let's make sure to refresh our bubble. So we're good until the morning. And let's do a quick event check. Make sure we got all our events done. Really lagging tonight. We'll check our fleet commander one in a second. There's the officer one. Hostile hunt is done. The Borg one is the solo armadas. I haven't done any solo armada or any away teams. I thought I just did some away teams. I didn't get points for those. I could have sworn I just started a couple of new away team missions, but maybe not. Maybe it was on the other account. Alright. So we should expect to see with Az is that she's going to, round 1, very little. There'll be no difference from the first shot. Then she's going to apply her ability. Shot number 2 will go off. It'll make a slight adjustment. Shot number 3 will go off. It'll make a slight adjustment. And at least we can see, by the second or third round, what kind of an impact it's having on these targets. Carissa, you found yourself needing to be more selective with who you send on away teams. Daily tasks require you not send them off for 3 days. That is always always a fact there. Sometimes you have to make some compromises on those away teams and not, or skip some missions and not, just prioritize stats about certain things. There's a number of missions where it's like, oh yeah, Khan is the perfect person to use this, and it's like, I'm not sending Khan on a 3-day mission. Or worse, 1 or 2 of them are like 5-day missions, and it's like, oh yeah, who'd be the perfect guy for this one? No. Okay, so let's repair this ship real quick. Actually, I don't want to change and put miles in because that'll change my stats on my ship. So I just need to just flip these guys around. It did change the stats a little bit, moving him from below deck to above deck. So let's do an XO for warp speed. There we go, plus 50% warp speed. Now hopefully this won't be a 6-minute flight. All the way back out here. Hey, it's down to 5 minutes. Woohoo! You got the epic 5-day mission for 1 data shard. Yeah, there's that one. And I think the one for the 1 pike shard where you get ultra recruit tokens is like a 5-day mission. And you're like, no. But yeah, I think the one for the data shard, maybe that's one of them is Mud, and I think the other one is Khan. And it's like, yeah, I'm not sending Khan on a 5-day mission for 1 data shard. Oh, what else we got? Oh, nice. So some players over on server 112, which is an EU server. So some of my EU friends here on 118, the one guy on this server, his wife plays on server 112, and she's in an alliance over there. I don't know why they don't play on the same server together. They don't, but that's not the relevant part of the story. So in her alliance the other day, somebody was like newer player had just joined and they had some questions about the game, and somebody said, "Well, what you really should do, there's this whole tutorial video series this guy Tiberius has. You should just watch those. Those will be really helpful." And so she's like, "Wait, Tiberius, isn't that the guy you watch all the videos for?" And he was like, "Yeah." So yeah, he's in my alliance. So she sent him a screenshot of it. He forwarded it to me and was like, "Hey, they were talking about you, and you're like, internet famous now." And I was like, "Well, let's not get carried away." But it's nice to know that one, people are enjoying the videos, and two, that they're sharing them and sort of using them as tools, which is what they were always intended to be, to help newer players. And sometimes newer players just have trouble finding the content. So the fact that existing players are like, "Well, hey, I watched this. This helped me. You should probably watch it too, and hopefully you'll answer a lot of your questions and see things a lot differently and won't make some of the mistakes that a lot of players make." So I popped onto the server 112 Discord and just happened to, in their Alliance ROE section, whatever like that, just happened to leave a comment like, "Hey, I saw you guys were sharing my videos, just want to say thank you." And then I got a couple messages back from people. Um, you know, the guy who runs the Discord was saying, "Feel free to share your videos in general chat. It's always great to have help and advice." And then the guy from the Alliance who actually shared it was like, "Hey, it's nice to meet you. It was very nice. His guys all love that, and they learned a lot. So feel free to visit with us anytime." So, server 112, if any of you are watching, thank you very much for watching and for sharing the content. And it looks like I was just invited to also join their Alliance Discord server. Okay, sure, why not? We'll pop into some of those for a little while too. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. It kind of picked me up a little bit, when you're hearing about stuff like that. It's like I can, what do I know? Like I know I can look at the YouTube, message or watch count, and be like, "Oh, X hundred of people or thousands of people, whatever, watch this video." Like, okay, 52 of them click the like button. Thank you. you know, you don't always get a whole lot of feedback. 7 people left a comment that said, "Oh, this is great. This really helped." All right, so great. So 700 people watched it. 7 people left a comment on it. Does that mean the other 693 people hated it, or they didn't care enough to leave a comment, or they were watching it on a device or something like that where they couldn't leave a comment? Because I know if you watch YouTube on like your TV through an app, which I do a lot, and my wife does a lot, you can't leave comments on the TV app. So maybe that's a thing. That's why everybody watches me while they're eating dinner and they can't type. That's what it must be. That's what you did. You watched me on TV. There you go. The nice nature sounds and the Morgan Freeman tone of my voice. Just yeah, nice relaxing background dinner conversation material. There you go. All right, so we need a 39. You're driving home. Well, yeah, that's the thing too. If you're listening to it, I guess that's the thing. If you're listening while you're driving, you shouldn't be typing to leave comments. I'd just be thankful that people are hitting the thumbs up button at all then. Just queue up your playlist and go sit in traffic. There's a 38. And then here's a 37. Now this isn't going to be a perfect test, but it should at least highlight our example here. Just sort of what type of benefit you're getting from her. Now you're getting the extra synergy to Gorkon, which is another factor. Gorkon's captain's ability is increasing the critical hit chance for the first 2 rounds. Normally it's 10%. With Kurla there, it was 20%. With her there, it's up to 30%. So you would expect I'm going to crit a little more often, which means some of these fights might just, end. But let's see. So we go find our 39. The first shot, thank goodness, was... All right, so not a crit. Okay. So, keep closing the calculator. $58.89, exactly what it was last time. $58.89. Now we hit them. Now that triggered. Now she added this penetration. 40% bonus there. Now it's down to 57.57. So it improved 1.3% with just the first shot. Now we get into round 2 here. The weapon's charging. There we hit it again. Now we're down to 56%, 56.37. And then by round 3 here, our final shot that kills it, we're down to 55.30. So we went from 58.89 to 55.30. That's 3.6%, we'll call it, over the course of the fight. Lowered their mitigation 3.6%. Again, if the fight was longer, you might see a better rate of return on it. If this was a solo armada that was going, if this was a Dominion solo armada that was going 25 rounds, you'd see a lot more value out of it, assuming that she lives long enough throughout the course of that fight. That by, round 10, round 12, if she was on a ship that fired more. We've been doing this example using the Saladin. The firing pattern on the Saladin, not that great because of the number of shots you get with it. If I picked a ship, like what's the Vidar? Does it have a better firing pattern? Not really. 1 shot, 1 shot, 3 shots. The interceptors don't have the best firing patterns. Gladius? I know the D4 is just 2-2. 3-1-3-1. It's a little better. What's the D3? Yeah, just kind of doing this alternating 2 shots every other round. I think the D4 does the same thing if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So now we're looking at like if you put her on a Kelvin. Now it's not, that's the other thing too, is that every time the ship hits, but it's not just the ship hitting, it's weapons with multiple shots don't trigger it multiple times. So it's really just every time my weapon fires. So it's not just the number of shots as well. If I remember the tooltip correctly on her. Weapons with multiple shots only trigger this ability once per attack. So even though if you have a ship that shoots 3 times with the one weapon, that's not doing it either. Interceptors are also notorious to have very few weapons. It's true. Uh-oh. Who's this? Get out of my system. Easy 22. I just have to wait, make sure he leaves before I go OPC. So, yeah. 3 weapons, 1 weapon. Yeah, again, not a great firing pattern. And I mean, yes, that could work if you're doing her, put her on other ships that shoot more often. But then, you're losing some of the natural advantage, I guess, if you put her on. If you put her on a Bortas, we'll say. It's got more weapons to battleship. It's got 3 weapons in that first round that are all shooting. You're getting 3 shots off. Her ability's triggering 3 times. But again, it's only working if you're going against other battleships for the most part. Armada's a little bit because of the way their mitigation works, but uh, with armor piercing and armor being the primary stat of a battleship, it's really the only where you're going to see the most benefit, the most reward. So you really only want to use her if you're attacking other battleships. If you're putting her on an Enterprise, you don't want to be hitting against the triangle while you're farming. That just doesn't make sense. Unless that's your only option, you would just find other targets. But if you had to hit battleships for some reason and you only had an Enterprise, I guess she could help a little bit. But if it was a gold mission boss or something, right? And you're like, what am I going to do?